Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro obviously still covering this horrific helicopter crash that took place over the weekend, taking the lives of 9 people, including Kobe Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be speaking with former mayor of Las Vegas, Oscar Goodman. He's going to be talking about what Kobe Bryant meant to him and what Kobe Bryant meant to the city of Las Vegas. He'll be coming up here in just a little bit. But the man joining us on the line right now, he is a former helicopter pilot for Kobe Bryant. In fact, he has over 1,000 hours flying that exact aircraft that crashed on Sunday. Kurt Deetz joins us right now on the line. Kurt, thank you so much for being here, sir. How are you?
Hey, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I'm all right.
What was the first reaction that went through your mind when you heard about this horrific tragedy?
I heard that there was a 76 that crashed, and there's only 2 companies that run them out of SoCal. Mm-hmm. And my first was, which one was it, which company, and who the pilot was.
Right.
And then when I heard the N number, or the aircraft number, I knew what company, and then I found out who the pilot was.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my God, I hope it wasn't with that passenger.
And you,
know what I mean?
and you felt that it could be right away. So that's so horrible. So let me start.
Right.
Let me start from the beginning with you. Do you recall the first time you met Kobe Bryant? What was that interaction like, and how does somebody like yourself become Kobe Bryant's personal pilot?
I was. There was a time before he retired that there was only one pilot managing his flights, and they were becoming more and more demanding and more flights. So I was hired on to help out. I was flying for ExxonMobil at the time. I had experience in that aircraft. There's not a lot of guys who fly that type,
right?
Like readily available. So I was brought on in 1-5 to help out with the flights.
So I would imagine during that time, Kurt, during 2015 to 2017, when you were Kobe Bryant's personal helicopter pilot, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're flying him to practices and you're probably flying him into games from his home too, correct?
Right. That was the majority of the flights prior to retirement were practice and games, or taking him to LAX to meet the team plane.
Sure.
Or picking him up from LAX after a road game.
Gotcha. Okay, so what was your relationship like with this pilot who lost his life that was flying that chopper on Sunday morning?
From 2015 to 17, he and I were the only guys flying them. So, I mean, he became my boss. He became the chief pilot.
Wow.
Of that company. So, I knew him well for 2 years.
Right.
And I just saw him about a month ago at an airport, and I had moved on to another job,
sure.
And he just wished me luck, and that was it.
So obviously, this was a guy who had a lot of experience, as you said at one point. He was your boss. So I don't want to get into a lot of speculation with you. So let's just talk about the facts, Kurt. Here's what we know. We know that the the LAPD was not flying planes that day due to the weather conditions. Have you ever flown one of these choppers when the conditions were that poor?
Absolutely. I mean, well, no, let me back up. I have flown when the LAPD or the sheriff have grounded their aircraft. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
That means that they maybe have a department standard that's higher, meaning that they can't complete their missions
Gotcha.
in this type of weather.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Kurt Deetz. He was Kobe Bryant's former helicopter pilot from 2015 to 2017. Actually has over 1,000 hours of flying that exact chopper that went down on Sunday. Okay, Kurt, so now we've established the weather conditions. Let me ask you another question, and this is speculation, but this is something that a lot of people are talking about. They're saying that, well, this pilot had a very high-profile clientele on that chopper, and some people
Right.
are saying that could have, and again, I use the word could have affected his decision-making as opposed to maybe just a normal everyday client or a regular, chopper flight. Do you think that
Right.
is a possibility where the fact that Kobe Bryant is in your chopper, that it could have affected this man's judgment that fateful day on Sunday?
And the only thing I can say to that is that in the 2 years that I flew him, there was never, ever once any pressure from him or his people to get them there. None. Zero.
That's
However,
important.
any pressure as a pilot is all self-induced. No one wants to fail. No one wants to let their boss down,
Mm-hmm.
But there's a time where you have to say, hey, I can't do this or whatever, and just take your legs.
Right.
But I don't know what his thought process was, but any pressure that he felt, and he had flown him for so long, there was no like, oh my God, it's Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was comfortable in that environment
Right.
flying him. So,
Yeah.
But as far as the client pressuring pilots, no,
Okay.
never, ever.
So, Kurt, as we would expect, the NTSB is going to be doing a full investigation into this, and
Right.
that way we can avoid speculation. But you, as
Yeah.
someone who's had a lot of time in this type of aircraft, and we're talking about the Sikorsky S-76. There's other variants, I believe, S-75 as
Right.
well too. There's been some discussion about what was on board as far as instruments, and there was talk about an instrument where there's actually a terrain avoidance or a terrain notification instrument that is something that is either optional or on that type of aircraft. Now, Kobe Bryant, apparently this was a luxurious aircraft. Is this something that was optional that may or may not have been on the aircraft?
Here's the thing. First of all, that aircraft is IFR capable, meaning that if you had to go IFR, you could take that aircraft IFR. Whether it had that on there or not, I don't remember. I've flown, there's 6 of those aircraft in Southern California, and I've flown 4 of them. So, I don't remember 100% if it had that. Normally they do, but, I can't speak to it that in my time I was there. But honestly, it would not have made a difference. That wouldn't have been we have that, we're safe.
Interesting.
So
yeah.
all that does
Right.
is alert you,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're going to hit something. Hey, you're going to hit something.
Right.
It doesn't take over flight controls or anything
Right.
like that.
Sure, gotcha. If you're just joining us again, his name is Kurt Deetz. This is Kobe Bryant's former personal pilot, helicopter pilot from 2015 to 2017.
Actually, President Trump owns one of these as well. It's considered basically a Cadillac in the sky. It's a luxury helicopter, and from what I understand, there's only been 2 other crashes involving deaths since 2006. How big of an anomaly was this, really, Kurt?
Well, they have an amazing maintenance record. They're a very reliable aircraft. They are twin engine, twin hydraulics. Everything about this is redundant. They have dual systems. For a system to fail is rare. For a system to fail twice is even more rare. Like almost never.
Well, Kurt, let me just flat out ask you. And again,
Yeah.
I hate to ask you something when we don't have all the information. However, with your experience, the fact that you are a personal friend to this pilot, this man was your boss, the fact that you have over 1,000 hours flying this exact chopper that went down with your experience, based on the facts now, Kurt, based on what we do know, what do you think happened? What do you think happened?
I wasn't there. I don't know. No one knows. I have my ideas. Everyone in aviation has their own take on it. But no one, and the only person who knows is the pilot. He was there. He knew the exact weather, where he was, and what flight parameter he was in, what he was doing, why he was doing it.
Well, let me ask you this
You
then.
know,
Let me ask you this
what?
then. Do you think we ever will find out the truth?
Sure. I do not believe this is going to be a complex decision. I think the NTSB does an amazing job, and they're going to piece this together rather quickly. And everyone will have the answer then. But, you know, what I think doesn't matter what you think or the other pilots. It's what the NTSB says about it.
If you were piloting that helicopter, would you have taken off in that weather, or would you have? And if you did take off and you hit the layer of clouds through the fog, would you have grounded the helicopter? How would you have handled the situation?
All right. Here's the thing. There's. It's hard because I don't know what the weather data was at that time, but he and his process decided that weather was good enough to fly, in his estimation and his ability as a pilot. Decided I can do this.
Right.
Now, weather is either the same, better, or worse as forecast. You know what I mean? You get out there and be like, oh, this is great, way better. Or, wow, this is way worse than it said. And then you have decisions. Turn around, continue, or land. So
Yep, I got you.
these are everything you're thinking about as you're flying in this weather.
Yeah, understandable.
And Kurt, it's also a
Yeah.
possibility, right, that they may not have been aware of the weather changes, given it is in Southern California. They actually took off from John Wayne Airport, I believe, right, which is in Orange County. It's not necessarily beyond the realm, right, that he's not going to be aware of what the exact weather conditions are, say, farther up north to the Calabasas area, north of Los Angeles,
Sure.
right?
Sure it would. The only thing is, he left from Long Beach. The aircraft lives in Long Beach. To Santa Ana, and then on the way to Camarillo. You have weather reporting, Santa Ana, Los Al, and then there's one downtown, L.A.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's Burbank, Van Nuys, and then after that, there's nothing until Camarillo.
Yeah, sure.
There's how many places you can gather data and kind of extrapolate what the
Sure.
weather's going to be like
Yeah.
in
Understood.
that route.
Understood. Yeah. And
So-
listen, Kurt, we're going to find out what happened. Obviously, we don't we don't want to put you in a situation where you're guessing or speculation, but I do appreciate you answering those questions as honestly as you can. Let's try to remember Kobe a little bit now. Let me ask you some personal questions, if you can. Obviously, in flying Kobe Bryant around for 2 years, I would imagine he probably had some very special guests with him at times. Can you share that with us? I mean, did he ever fly with Shaquille O'Neal? I don't know if that ever happened, or any of his teammates, anybody famous, politicians.
I would not consider myself a professional pilot if I told you that.
Fair enough. Fair
You know
enough.
what I mean?
No, I
I can
understand.
appreciate that answer.
But Kurt, you can't comment on the family, right? What was it like with Vanessa and with the daughters? Because I can imagine you had some type of relationship with both her as well as Kobe's kids.
He's a pilot. All it was with him, no matter who he was with, was because you would stand by the door and have the door open. He would get in and say, "Hey, man," or a head nod or a thumbs up. But there was no like throw hugging or like any of that. It
Yeah.
was
Right.
just
It was professional.
unbelievably professional. However, when he was with his family, you would always hear, always, a constant laughing and giggling and messing around. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he loved his family
That
very
vibe.
much.
There was that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was one time that he rode up front with me, and his family and friends were in the back, and I always had a picture of my girlfriend and my son, and he looked at it and pointed at it. It was on the panel, and gave me a thumbs up. Like, you know, he liked the whole family thing.
So isn't that cool? You know, doesn't that
That is
say
pretty cool.
doesn't that say a lot about Kobe Bryant, Kurt? That's really cool. So you're saying you're sitting up front. Obviously, you're flying the helicopter, and then Kobe's up front there with you, and you have a picture of your family. And there's so many other stories, Kurt, just like that one, where he loved talking about other people's families, even those people that he didn't know. I think that spoke
Right.
volumes about Kobe and how much he loved his own family and what a family man he was. You know, I got the sense, Kurt, and maybe you could comment on this. Basically, what you just said would probably verify what I'm about to say. But I never got the sense that he went in these helicopters because he wanted to live that lavish lifestyle or he wanted to brag. He went in these helicopters because it was business. He wanted to spend more time with his family, and he needed to get to places. Would you agree with that?
I would, because in the beginning, he was taking a smaller aircraft. And then he went into another twin that's smaller, bigger than the other one.
Right.
And then he went into the 76. So it wasn't about, look at me. It was more about, I can go from 100 knots to 160 knots, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And get there way faster and way more efficiently.
Sure.
So,
no question.
and he's a big guy. He's a tall man. So
Yeah.
the 76, there's a lot of room back there.
Sure.
Spread out.
No question. Well, Kurt, listen, we'd
Yeah.
love to have you back on when the investigation is over with. Maybe you'll be able to comment on it then. It's going to take a little while, which is fine by me because we want to know the truth. Obviously, this is a horrible tragedy. There are families involved. So many people have lost loved ones. It's not just Kobe Bryant and his daughter.
Totally.
There were 7 other people on that chopper as well that all have families. But Kurt, let me just say this: I'm sorry for your loss, the loss of your friend and your former boss. I know that this must be very painful for you as well, and obviously hits home to you. So I do appreciate you, Kurt, taking the time to talk about this at a very difficult time. Thank you so much for your expertise and your professionalism.
Thank you,
I really do appreciate it, and we'd love to have you on again, Kurt. Thank you so much.
Let me know.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kurt.
His name is Kurt Deetz, a former Kobe Bryant personal helicopter pilot. Now, I was unaware of that it was only him and this other pilot that lost his life that Kobe had. That was it. It was just the two of them. So he was Kobe's pilot for a couple of years, and that's
sounds
interesting.
like they were the only 2 pilots that could fly that aircraft in all of Southern California.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but
they flew a lot of celebrities around, and Kobe Bryant was one of those celebrities. Now, I will say this: you mentioned how Vanessa and Kobe, Vanessa and Kobe actually had an agreement where they would not fly together.
Which is understandable given
they would not
the thought process of if one of them happened.
They would never fly in the helicopter together.
And you're saying they did that in case a tragedy like this happened.
I would assume that would be why they.
Isn't
that makes sense, right?
Incredible. Isn't that incredible that they thought like that? Because a lot of parents wouldn't. They would just assume that, hey, everything's going to be okay. Isn't that interesting?
It's just really bothersome because Kobe. The more you hear about him, the more you learn about him. He was such a meticulous, smart, planned out guy. And one thing goes wrong, and he loses his life. His daughter, his 13-year-old daughter, loses her life. I mean, it's just considering how structured and how just how
meticulous his life was.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
How balanced and careful he was. He ends up losing his life in this matter. I guess at this point, I'm just the only silver lining is that he didn't suffer.
I want to play you a little bit of audio because remember this guy just talking about how Kobe pointed at his family and gave him the thumbs up, which I think is really cool. He loved talking about family, Kobe. And here's another example: ESPN's very own Ellie Duncan talking about the time she talked about her daughters to Kobe Bryant. Have a listen to this. It's really amazing.
It's likely that you're hearing many personal anecdotes about Kobe Bryant, so here's mine. I met Kobe one time, backstage at an event for ESPN in New York, and I saw him and I thought, oh my gosh, that's Kobe. I gotta get a picture for the gram. That's the picture. I didn't get it for a few minutes because as I approached him, he immediately commented on my rather large 8-month pregnant belly. How are you? How close are you? What are you having? A girl, I said, and then he high-fived me. Girls are the best. I asked him for advice on raising girls, seeing as though he quite famously had 3 at the time. And he said, just be grateful that you've been given that gift because girls are amazing. His 3rd daughter, Bianca, was about 1.5 years old at the time. So I asked if he wanted more children. And he said that his wife, Vanessa, really wanted to try again for a boy, but was sort of jokingly concerned that it would be another girl. And I was like, 4 girls, are you joking? Like, what would you think? How would you feel? And without hesitation, he said, I would have 5 more girls if I could. I'm a girl dad. When it came to sports, he said that his oldest daughter was an accomplished volleyball player and that the youngest was a toddler, so TBD. But that middle one, he said, that middle one was a monster. She's a beast. She's better than I was at her age. She's got it. That middle one, of course, was Gigi. When I reflect on this tragedy and that half an hour that I spent with Kobe Bryant 2 years ago, I suppose that the only small source of comfort for me is knowing that he died doing what he loved the most, being a dad, being a girl dad.
If that doesn't get you choked up, I don't know what does. That's really emotional stuff, but I think that speaks volumes of where Kobe Bryant's priorities were, and his number one priority was not basketball, it was his family, and I think that's very chilling to hear that, but I'm glad she shared that story. That, to me, that's the essence of Kobe Bryant, not just one of the greatest of all time on the court, but what an unbelievable family man he was.
And to me, guys, it circles back to, Brian, what you brought up a couple times the last couple of days, and that's Kobe Bryant did this because it maximized his time with his family.
It was efficient.
And that is why. Yeah, it was efficiency at its best.
Sure.
We all understand, living in Southern California and Los Angeles, the traffic situation, it would take hours for him. Instead it took minutes, instead of, being on the road and taking 2-3 hours to get to a destination. And to be quite honest with you, we talked with the pilot. It wouldn't surprise me that there aren't a number of celebrities, JD and Brian, that are operating this way, that actually do this, that have helicopter access.
I would definitely do this if I was in this situation, but after this, I would say that there has to be two pilots.
So Shaquille O'Neal,
100%.
Shaquille O'Neal made some comments on his podcast, but TNT did a special, I believe it was yesterday, and Shaq talked a little further about how hard it is for him to get through this.
We up here, we work a lot, and I think a lot of times we take stuff for granted. Like, I don't talk to you guys as much as I need to. The fact that we're not going to be able to joke at his Hall of Fame ceremony. We're not going to be able to say, hi, I got 5, you got 4. The fact that we're not going to be able to say, if we would stay together, we could have got 10. Those are the things that you can't get back. And with the loss of my father, my sister, and my thing, that's the only thing I wish I could just say something to him again.
Yeah, and Shaq's right. I mean, this is a moment that everybody can say, take the moment. I know it's a cliche, but take the moment to say those things to your loved ones and your best friends because, there's no guarantee of a tomorrow. And Shaquille O'Neal's really, I'm really concerned about him. He said he's not sleeping, he's not eating, he just lost his sister, he lost his father, and now he lost Kobe, and I would imagine there has to be a little bit of guilt, even though he shouldn't feel guilt. It's a natural reaction for Shaquille O'Neal to feel a little bit of guilt because, as you know, Shaq and Kobe did not always see eye to eye.
No.
They almost got into a fist fight at some practices. So
it sounds like the last time they had a conversation was right before Kobe's final game. Shaq said, "Go out and get 50," and Kobe got 60. That was the last time they talked.
Yeah, so of course Shaquille O'Neal,
which is 3 years ago,
which is a long time ago. So of course Shaquille O'Neal is feeling some guilt there. You just look at his face; he's not looking too good.
Shaq, I mean, he's every bit of 7'1", 7'2", probably 380 pounds. I can't imagine his heart is in the best health right now. He could be a risk moving forward, considering his mental situation.
And quickly, guys, he mentioned, of course, not being able to see him at the Hall of Fame. What I thought about immediately was that his daughters are not going to have their father walk them down the aisle when they get married, and I can relate to that as someone who lost my father at way before his time. And with my sister, that's something that hits close to home.
Sadly, all of us have lost loved ones, and I think some of us should, or at least most of us should understand what Shaquille O'Neal is going through, and I hope his friends and family give him the support he needs. So coming back, we're going to be speaking with Oscar Goodman, former mayor of Las Vegas. I believe Oscar had somewhat of a relationship with Kobe Bryant, so we're going to talk to him about that. But not just what Kobe Bryant meant to Oscar Goodman, but what Kobe Bryant meant to Las Vegas. This is a man who spent a lot of time here in this city. Kobe never said a negative thing about Las Vegas. He loved it here, and it's the reason why I was able to interview him over a dozen times. So former mayor of Las Vegas, Oscar Goodman, will be joining us next. This is the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.